Bree, you fell over.
Hello.
There we go.
Yeah, it's like it's not following me, but I'm here.
Yes. Welcome.
Nice.
You're here. And then Phoebe is joining. Cool. Well, thank you guys for all joining. Let's wait for Phoebe here. But Jonathan, before Bree had a pretty cool background. She still does, but I think you win now.
This is our backyard.
Oh, chill out. That's awesome. Yeah, that's great. There we go. What up? Are you here? I think you're here.
All right. Here we go.
There we go. All the internets are connected, and everybody is here.
Darling.
Welcome. I think we're okay. If I get this right, Paul UK, Jonathan LA, Travis LA, and Phoebe and well, where are you guys in the UK? The three that are there.
I'm in London.
Sorry.
I'm in London.
And then I don't know who said sorry. Oh, Surrey. Did you say Surrey?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said sorry, like you couldn't hear me. And I was like, all right. But
Closest I think of is like in the holiday there. Sorry.
sorry. Yeah, that makes sense. Cool. Well, thank you guys for joining me. Good afternoon or good evening. Yeah, of course. Everybody in chat say hi. If you guys can throw them some sort of hi, just to let them know you all exist and you're all here. This is a lot of people's first time using Twitch, which is fair because we're not all gamers. And
Yeah.
I told them chat was really cool, so make sure you show them. There we go. And we got, I don't know if some friends that you guys might know, but we have Jeremy Saffer in chat, and we have Fog again, who's Daniel Rojas, who works with Travis. But they're here
Okay.
hanging. Yeah, just other people. I like when other photographers support. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
I saw Jeremy was on the chat.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I like it. It's like a hangout. Even if you're not on screen, just coming in chat and typing is cool. But I don't know if you guys like. Obviously, people are gonna get cut off during this. It happens. There's like 6 of us. We're all gonna talk. It's not a big deal. But if you want to start, like I don't know how everybody's appearing, but I have like Paul right here. I don't know if we all appear the same on each screen, but Paul, you wanted to start off by telling people like who you are, kind of what you do, where you're at, just so everybody can kind of get to know us, know you guys.
Okay. Well, I'm based in London, and I started my career at the very tail end of the 80s shooting for Kerrang! And I've been shooting for Kerrang! Magazine ever since, which sadly has just announced that they're going to stop producing print issues for the foreseeable future.
Oh.
But working with Kerrang! It's put me in front of a lot of rock stars, as you can imagine, and it's been a fantastic ride, especially with bands like Slipknot and My Chemical Romance. So, you know, bands like that.
Some heavy hitters.
Yeah. So it's been obviously a bit strange. It's been very quiet the last few months, not been able to get to anybody.
Yeah.
But we shall see.
But you're here.
Yeah. I did a Zoom thing a little while ago. I did a special talk about my Slipknot book. It lasted for about an hour and just went through some of the images and some of the unseen images that didn't make it into the book. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, Connor, if you can find his Slipknot book on his website and throw it in chat, that'd be great. Connor's our mod. He's not like an imaginary friend. Captain Lasagna.
Okay.
But he'll throw it in the chat so we can check it out. Yeah, Bree, do you want to go next? Just let people know, like, I don't know, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I'm originally from Australia. I moved to London like 8 years ago now, with the dream, not really thinking it would ever happen, but the dream of touring with bands eventually. I started taking photos of friends, and that sort of slowly moved to touring with them. And then last year I spent a year touring with Lewis Capaldi, sort of during his kind of rise, which was really cool. And that kind of took me up to this year, and now I'm just waiting for something else exciting to happen. So,
Aren't we all?
yeah.
Travis, do you want to take it?
Sure.
Let's do it.
I'm Travis. I have a hard time staring at myself when I talk, but I'll try. Yeah, I live in Los Angeles. I do a lot of music and motorcycle lifestyle stuff, and yeah, I don't know, a lot of hip hop, a lot of metal, and not too much in between, but yeah, keeps me busy.
Oh yeah,
I love it.
that's what's up. I don't know, Phoebe or Jonathan, whoever talks faster, go for it. Whoever gets the
Yeah.
I think Phoebe
Um,
probably talks faster than me.
I'm like based between London and Surrey, so just like really South London, start of Surrey. And I started photography at school. I went to the Brit School, and then my friends in Music Strand would put on little shows at the weekend in Camden, and I'd go and take photos for them. And then that like just gradually developed into like meeting people that were like touring at a higher scale and a higher scale, and then that's literally it. That just started from there. But most of the stuff I do is either touring or press or like live coverage, and then album covers a couple.
music space stuff. Everything.
Yeah.
That's great. All right, Jonathan, you want to finish this off, and we'll get to chatting about stuff, things.
Yeah, so I'm Jonathan. I live in LA. I started out in the DC area in like late 90s, just kind of taking pictures of bands that I was friends with, and they all kind of happened to do quite well in that time. So bands like Thursday and it's like Thursday, AFI, and Rise Against, I feel like kind of took me under their wings. And then I don't know, when I moved to LA, kind of shifted gears towards more portrait work, do a lot of album art and magazine shoots and covers and press photos and things like that. I don't know. Me and Travis tend to be up for the same job almost every time, and so it's always one of the two of us.
Yeah, you guys got a pretty good section of the industry locked down between the two of you. I was looking at both your work. I was like, wow, pretty much everything I've seen, one of you guys shot it. That's awesome, though. Well, cool. Well, thank you guys for joining. I guess I'll kind of tell chat, like, we have 5 portrait photographers here today, so people who mainly focus on whether it be portrait in a lifestyle fashion or following an artist or portrait in a studio, and we kind of want to take advantage of that. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask, but we're going to focus mainly on the things that aren't technical. So we're not going to ask about lighting setups or what lenses they use. We want to focus on things that, involve 5 people talking together. So I guess I break the ice by talking about, we always have on this channel, we always ask people, since everybody's, oh, did somebody just leave us? Oh, don't worry, she's back. But, well, we'll wait for Phoebe to get settled back in. All right, we got you. You good?
It's fine. I feel like it's gonna do it a couple times.
It's okay. As long as you come back, it's fine. Just don't leave us forever. But I wanted to know if you guys, when you travel, if you use shower shoes or not. Or if you've ever toured or been to a venue or had a shower at a venue. I don't know. You know what I'm
Always
talking
have.
Yeah, I always intend to bring them and I always forget, and then I just have to deal with potentially getting fungal issues later on. It hasn't happened yet though, but
Yes.
I haven't done tour stuff in quite a while, but yeah, flip flops are a must.
I never bring them.
Yeah, I was the same. When I would tour, I would bring flip flops, but now it's just hotels, so not as bad there.
You don't gross yourself out enough to wear shower shoes. You're all good.
No,
Yeah.
I
Always a hotel for me.
thought
Yeah.
about bringing them.
You always try to bring them, Phoebe?
No, I've literally never even thought about bringing shower shoes. Never
Phoebe,
even-
you're disgusting.
No, I just wear like a pair of trainers in, and then that's that. Make sure you dry your feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am always amazed about how, like, it's never like somebody in the middle is like, maybe yes, maybe no. It's always somebody like, absolutely, or I'd never think about it. But it's
No.
like,
Yeah.
Paul, I think I spelled your last name wrong, and that's my fault. It's Harries, right?
That's correct, yeah.
All right, you guys. Sorry if you've been going to... Somebody else is getting promo right now. Okay, well, that's fair. I'm glad that we have everybody across the board, because I don't really wear shower shoes, and I like to not feel too gross. But I guess one of the things I wanted to know is, because everybody kind of shoots, I would say, portraits where it's set up and portraits where it's kind of fly on the wall. maybe when you're touring, and you just have to ask somebody for a portrait. And I was wondering if you guys prefer something or what you feel more comfortable in and why, and we can kind of just talk about that. So I don't know who wants to start, but that's kind of where my mind was at. I'm really interested to hear that. I hope that makes sense. You want to kick it
I
off?
always think it's nice to have a bit of control over the location and maybe get able to choose a location rather than have to shoot backstage somewhere. Put a backdrop up and that sort of thing. It can be a little bit restrictive.
Yeah.
I think that one of the things I love about this job in particular is actually like getting thrown into it and just kind of having to figure it out the best you can, And if it's hidden through lights or personality or whatever, just I like making it up as I go.
Yeah.
I think like I prefer being given a place and then having to scout a location in that place, or like having the opportunity, like behind the scenes stuff is really good because you've got someone else doing an entire shoot and you can just kind of sit back and wait for a good moment to happen, or like notice a good spot in a corner and be like, just come over here when you get a chance.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
I prefer something that feels a little more natural and like I can kind of read the room, find a moment, and then step in. I'm much more comfortable in being a fly. I'm much more comfortable being a fly on the wall than a studio or setup situation. But yeah,
I'd like to get more into the studio stuff though. It's just that like the few times I've done it, it's really fun to have complete control over the lighting and things like that. But I feel like I don't know, like when you're just walking around, it just feels a lot more like you can get a true representation of what the person's like reactions would be in that exact moment, and it's just easier to capture a bit of them in that, I think, rather than just being like, okay, make it up as you go along. Here's like a space, and you just kind of figure it out. Yeah,
that's very true.
Yeah,
I did a shoot last week on location out in the desert, and like literally dawned on me that I haven't been out of my studio in almost 2 years.
Oh wow.
And it's hard. You don't even think about it, and then you're out there and you're like, holy shit, I love this. I forgot about it.
I feel like I tend to spend like weeks obsessing over every detail, and then when we get there we change everything and all the magic happens like while we're actually doing it.
Yeah, it's
like I think
it's so easy to overthink things as well. Like whenever I have a studio shoot, I'm like, okay, I have to plan every single aspect of it, like for everything from like the exact lighting that you want to the positions that you want the artist in. And I think sometimes I then get a bit carried away in that sense, and I'm like, I have to plan everything. Whereas if it's just on location, then you just kind of relax a little bit more.
Yeah, Jonathan, and when you
like some people are probably the opposite.
Yeah, no, I vibe. Jonathan, what were you saying, Jonathan? Too. Also, I think it was what were you saying? I wanted to hear the rest of it. Also, I started to ask a question.
One of the last jobs I had before the shutdown, I was doing Smashing Pumpkins stuff, and we literally spent 3 weeks like changing locations and like coming up with like all these different concepts and themes, and then literally I think every shot that was used was come up with on that day.
Like Phoebe was saying, she spends a lot of time getting everything ready, and then you feel like it just all goes out the window. Like what do you guys, what is that? What do you think is behind that, or why does it work like that?
Everything's situational. So, like you can plan everything except for what the people in the situation that you walk into is.
I also think it's difficult, like, to know whether or not a situation will suit a person. Like, you can see a really cool pose and setup online and think, oh, that kind of thing is what I want, and then test out with a person, they just don't suit that setup for some reason, and that's where it gets a bit difficult.
Yeah, you're just kind of projecting yourself up front, like over.
Sometimes you can get your best.
And then you get there and you're like, oh shit, it's not about me, Collaboration. I used to like not be able to sleep before shoots, like working out every single thing. And years ago, I had this realization. It's like, it's all going to fucking change. Like, so literally, I keep it really loose. I throw a whole bunch of chaos out there, and I just try to make something stick, you know, and I found my groove that way, you know. My job is just to throw it all out there and make the playground and make it comfortable for everyone.
And Paul, I don't know if you had something you want to add in there. I know that we were getting in the zone.
Oh, I was just going to say, sometimes when things don't go to plan, you often get a better shot than you were thinking you were going to get anyway. You know, things can turn on their head and an idea comes out of nowhere and suddenly you've got something amazing.
And I know that, I don't remember if it was Bree or somebody used the term reading the room, but people who maybe haven't done portrait shoots or don't know what it's like to set up a shoot, like there's such like Travis was saying, there's a whole other person there, and you know, you really have to read their vibe, and like the goal is to kind of maintain this feeling or this chemistry. Like, how important is that to the shoot? I don't know if you guys can talk to that at all, but
yeah, I mean, so when I started working with Lewis, he was really not comfortable in front of the camera at all, and a big part of the reason why I ended up touring with him was because we were able to just have a drink together and talk, and then we'd throw some photos in the middle, and it made him feel at ease. It makes me feel at ease because I get nervous doing shoots as well. So when I can turn up and nothing goes to plan, I often find myself much happier and much more comfortable in that kind of situation than I would if it was anything else. So I
think a lot of it's to do with how much time you need to spend with someone. So like if you're a touring artist, like with a person, you obviously need to get along well with them. And obviously it's different for every artist, like the involvement that you have and the place that you fit within a crew. And then you just have to learn to adapt to that. But there are situations where it's just like you straight up realize that you're probably not the right person for the job, or you definitely are the right person for the job.
Yeah, I think that having that connection with them, if you're touring with them, is vital. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. And
it also like reflects the other interests that you might have. Like if you both have similar personalities, you might also have like a really similar aesthetic that you both want to try and get in a photo. And so I guess that is kind of reflected in it as well.
Yeah.
And that kind of like, for Paul, Travis, and Jonathan, who I know have been working with the same publication for a long time, or Bree and Phoebe, who seems, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but have toured with artists more consistently or something like that, like how important, or like how does your relationship or how do the shoots change the more you get to know these people? Like maybe Paul, or like maybe for you guys who are working with the publication, you don't see them every day, but you see them once every 6 months or once every year. Like how does it evolve?
Well, working with the same artists, do you mean, Adam?
Yeah, like working, like let's say, you know, you do a cover for this artist 1 year and then the next you do them another year later. Like how does it change that you've already worked with them?
Well, it makes things easier because the ice has obviously already broken with the band, and if you had a good time before, it's hey, it's you again, and you know, and it kind of evolves over the years, really. I mean, there's so many bands that I've known from being like when they first started, like a band like Slipknot. I first shot them in '99. So every time I saw them, it was I was sort of welcomed in again, and it's a lot easier.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Your portfolio is just crazy.
Yeah, it is insane.
It's like every time you post on Instagram, I'm like, what? So
or be like, he took that photo that I had on my wall, like when I was a teenager, like it's mental.
Completely.
Very cool.
Yeah, I don't know if I think that, do you guys find that maybe after you've toured with somebody for a while or after you've done multiple shoots, do you plan less? Do you get a little more loose in the shoot? Do you like have more chaos, as Travis was saying? Like how does it evolve? I'm really interested.
I think you learn what the person needs help with in terms of like direction and stuff. So like I'll always come with a whole list of different poses that I think that they'll like, and then I'll be like, do you like any of these? And then we'll try them and then like get them to move around a bit more in that spot and then catch something that suits them.
Yeah. You definitely get trust, you know, and I work with the same people all the time, and you become friends, you know, and collaborators, and a lot of the trust gets thrown onto you, instead of the other way around. And I don't know, of course, being on tour, that's like a whole, I don't do much of it anymore. That's how you get these scars on your face and all that shit. I started doing that back in the mid 90s, and I don't know, there's just too many people doing it now.
Yeah, it's changed.
Yeah, it totally has changed. But I still like going. I went out with Tool this year, and it was a blast. I do miss it, and I miss the spontaneity of not having all that control and finding the decisive moments. And I do love it, and I do miss it. I just like people. I'm an introvert outside of work, and I don't talk about myself. This is out of my comfort zone. That's why I said yes to it.
Well, we appreciate you being here, man. It's awesome.
But at work, it's like that's I feed off of that energy. I'm a vampire to it, and it makes me excited, and I live for it. And when this whole COVID shit started, I actually started mourning. A couple months out of it, and had to come up with new ways and find new inspirations. And I don't know. I'm loving what I'm doing in isolation. I don't know. It's crazy. I live for this.
Yeah.
There's nothing else to do.
I feel very similar.
The business is going to shit, but we're not doing it for the money.
Yeah. None of us are. We probably wouldn't be here.
There's nothing else I can do. Yeah.
I started taking pictures of just like plants and flowers around the house,
which
just
are
to,
beautiful.
Have a project.
If you guys have a chance to check them out on his Instagram, Connor can throw it in the chat. You can continue. I just want to say they're awesome.
But I just needed a project to do every day, so I didn't just like lose my mind, like freaking out that I didn't have work for the next however many months.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any purpose for it other than just doing something, and it started to morph. And then like Travis actually sent me a flower that he found near his house, so then I went and grabbed that. So it's been fun.
You've been scavenging for flowers? That's sick.
I was. I took a break, but when it was going strong, it was like I started in our house with just like all our house plants and cactuses, and then went out to like the garden with all the flowers, and then started going out to Travis's neighborhood and just stealing off of every neighbor's street.
That was fun. Like giving them a pin on the map, like it's right here. Pick it.
It was great.
I don't know what it is.
That's pretty funny.
It ended up being a passion fruit flower.
Really?
Yeah.
So does that mean you're now growing passion fruit? Or no.
No.
Okay.
But I might.
Yeah. Maybe eventually. I was gonna say, like, I think the cool thing about portrait photographers specifically, especially people in the music space, is I don't know about you guys, but a lot of people that are starting out get really caught up, I feel, in the technical aspect of it, like which light should I use and which camera. I don't know about you guys if you started that way, or at what moment did you either flip the switch and draw more from emotion, or did you start from that way, and when did you realize that those things weren't as important? I'm assuming you agree with that. If you don't, feel free to correct me. But yeah.
I think I realized it when the pictures that I thought were really technically good, the artist didn't really particularly like, and they liked the ones that weren't technically good, but that showed something about them. When I clocked that, I was like, oh, okay, doesn't matter that much.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I find I always get fussed about getting a particular shot or what I imagine from a shoot, and everything that I prefer is all of the in-between moments, and the artist often does as well, because they don't look so rigid. Most people don't particularly like having their picture taken or being told how to hold themselves. So I'm not a very technical photographer, but I also had to throw technical stuff out pretty quickly because I just preferred the other shots.
That's fair.
I've always found that like there's a lot of us that do this, obviously. So it's the most interesting thing is finding a way to like pull out a person's personality that you're seeing that's different than anybody else's. Like if everybody's photos look the same, then there's not really any soul to it, and you might as well just be doing stock photography.
Yeah.
So it's like if it's technical, great. Like I mean, I do a lot of lighting sometimes, but it's not the purpose of the photo. It's more about like, seeing somebody in a different light than anybody else does.
Literally, that's great.
I came from the opposite. Like, really, I was like uber technical for the longest time. And it wasn't until, I started noticing like that I'm missing the big picture because I'm actually honed in on the technical. Then you're like, oh shit, I'm shooting, whoever it is, and you're like, oh fuck, but I missed the most obvious shit because I'm worried about that. I'm still very technical. I love light, I love shadows, I live for them. But now I shoot in a looser way. I still have all of that, but it's this wide instead of this wide.
Yeah.
And
Wide and simple lighting.
Yeah.
So there's room for the subject to move is basically, for maybe people who haven't done portrait shoots, they're basically saying that, rather than making the light perfect in a 1 foot by 1 foot area, they're making the light pretty good in a lot wider of an area, so they have room to work with the subject. You can correct me if I'm wrong there, but I think that's what you're.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I used to shoot with grids and lights out, sent beams that big.
Yeah.
Just do whatever. But I went to school for painting, and then I kind of weirdly fell into photography because I needed to justify me going out 7 nights a week. And, and it's an electronic music scene and all this shit. And then I don't know. And then I thought I needed to learn more when I got out of college because actually I'm taking pictures now, making a little bit of money. And then I fell into assisting for 10 years where it was all that technical shit,
Same.
And then I started shooting again. And then I'm like, fuck, what would have happened if I never stopped? I don't know.
Yeah.
Weird.
No, that's
I started
to learn it because that's what was important. And now there's a big medium, for me at least.
I started touring with bands and just kind of making it up. And then when I moved to LA, I assisted for about 10 years. And just basically went the exact same direction. It was like working on movie posters and like big ad jobs and stuff. And so it's like everything had to be perfect and planned. And then like slowly just like took that out of my mind and just took like the pieces of the technicalities that I learned that are like good to apply, but tried to, keep the personality in it.
Well, Paul, I wanted to ask you specifically because I feel like, you've been shooting for the same publication for so long. How do you kind of match the requests of the publication with your desires as a creative and kind of meet in the middle? And where do you know what I mean? Like, how do you make that work for so long? A lot of these people are talking about, they have chaos and, they do the lighting and you can move around. Is yours a little more restricted or what's your vibe?
It really depends on the brief. I mean, sometimes the brief will be very, very specific. And other times it will be maybe more of an on-the-road, fly-on-the-wall type thing where you can just hang back and grab shots as they're happening. So when you're shooting for editorial, it can be very, very, like I said, very, very, very specific about what I need to get. But then you can get those moments where something different will happen and you take it back and they love those pictures more.
Yeah.
So you just... it's kind of like I can't remember if it was Brie or Phoebe said, just look at the room, seeing what's going on, and if the vibe's going in a different way, you kind of follow it that way, really.
Yeah, that makes sense. You cut out for a little bit there, but I think we got the gist of it.
Yeah, I'm getting that a lot here as well. I'm getting half conversations, but I'm hanging in there.
All right. Well, I apologize about that. Blame the space or something. I don't know. I put us in space on this chat, so we'll blame myself.
Okay.
I found some NASA images and was like, this looks cool. Let's be in space today. What was I gonna say? Yeah, cool. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but how do you balance, like, I don't know specifically how often people shoot for publication or how much they shoot for artists, but how do you guys find that balance? Or when, I don't know if you have moments where you're like, the publication has no idea what they want. I'm gonna do my own thing. Does that ever happen? Or I don't know if you guys can speak to that space.
I mean, I've definitely done that. But
It was just make them look cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if the idea isn't working or it may not be as good as it could be, you just have to make sure that you deliver something better than what they expected.
Mm.
And then I'll say more and more, they give you the gist of it, but they actually kind of start hiring you for what you do too, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's like there's so much trust in the game.
Mhm.
Totally. They're like, yeah, we're kind of doing this. Go. And you're like, cool. You know.
Yeah.
Then when I have a coloring book that I'm supposed to fill, I'm like, I don't know how to do this.
When you have like infinite options, it's so hard to do. When you're just like, this is exactly what I'm doing, then you can kind of go wild.
Yeah,
So,
that makes sense. That makes sense. So everybody here has obviously done a lot of portrait shoots. I'm wondering if you can maybe we can kind of play off each other, but for people who haven't done a lot of shoots, I think we can all agree that maybe one of the best ways to do it is to just start shooting, because I just got to get experience. But when you walk into a shoot, like really, what happens? Like, what's the what is the first thing to happen? Whether it be, I don't know if you want to start as setting up your lights or working with the artist, but how does that feel and how does that work? And maybe, I don't know, is it nerve wracking? Kind of things like that.
It's always nerve-wracking, but like the first thing to do is make the artist feel comfortable. Whoever you're shooting feel comfortable, like greet them.
Yeah.
Then start working out on your own stuff. But definitely the first thing to do is to break the ice a bit.
Yeah, so first thing I do is, because I'm, potentially sometimes more nervous than the artist, I just start talking, and then you get a little bit common ground, get a bit of a rapport going, and then the rest of the shoot doesn't feel so rigid. And that's it. Yeah, that's the first thing I do as well.
Even like just talking about what music you want to play on a playlist while you're shooting, like something that simple, and then you establish something that you have in common or someone that you like that's in common, and then it's a bit more chilled.
Yeah, it's very true.
And if you guys only have like a few minutes, this is a question for Connor. If you guys have a very limited time with the artist, what's the most important thing there other than obviously getting the shot? You guys, because I know you guys have probably all done like shoots that are less than a minute.
Getting a good relationship out of it, whether it be with like their manager by sending it over fast, or with the artist because it's a nice like photo of them that they like, just getting something out of that.
I feel like Paul can probably feel me on this. Like the last like 10-minute shoot I had was Slipknot, in which we had to shoot all 9 members in 10 minutes in 3 different groupings.
Oh my god!
And it was amazing. Like, but
you just do.
yeah, it's like you just go in and you plan everything as much as you possibly can beforehand, so that like when they walk in, it's like cameras in hand. This is what you're doing. Make something happen. Whereas like if you're just kind of like fumbling around, not ready to go, like it'll, by the time you're ready to go, they're like, cool, your time's done.
Yeah, no, because they only shoot between makeup and stage.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like,
it takes them so long, and like I've done it a couple times too. And the first time, all shit fucking went. Like it just last hour, everything,
Yeah.
and you're just like, oh fuck. But we're out at San Bernardino, and it's a festival, and
that's where we did it too.
And I'm like, fuck it. And we got the best shoot ever. And it was just improvised because I have my mirrors all the fucking time. And we did it. And I've worked from them ever since because of that,
Yeah, we built a studio on the side of the stage door with the entire crowd pretty much able to see it.
Was this
Totally.
Like
Knotfest
5
for
minutes.
both of you guys?
Yeah.
I
think
think
that's the only time they do
I've
anything.
seen Travis do it. I don't know if it was the year Bring Me played, but I feel like I saw that. Anyway.
I did it in the gazebo. Yeah, outside.
I tried to do it in the gazebo and it was too far.
Right.
What about you, Paul? I know you're getting bits and pieces. Are you able to chime in, or are you able to catch what we're talking about?
Yeah. I mean, I was quite lucky with Slipknot last year because I went out to see them in pre-tour rehearsals. So
Oh, wow.
I got them for a little bit longer. Not a great deal, but I got a chance to get a few setups, and I could tweak the lighting a little bit. I mean, when you're working with a band that are sort of more theatrical, you probably need to be a bit more spot on with your lighting before you get them on set.
Mhm.
Just so you're going to make the most of the time that you have with them.
And they bring
But
it.
yeah, I know what it's
Oh, yeah.
like doing them just before they go on stage. That's a bit of a nightmare.
I will say, if I can bring it back to an even worse one that I just remembered. I was doing a shoot with the singer of Ghost in Atlanta, I think maybe 2 years ago. and we had to set it like we only had like 10 minutes. It was the same makeup issue where it's like he didn't want to do it until right before he went on stage, but we only had enough time to do like it was like 10 minutes before he went on stage, but they were doing 2 sets that night. So he wanted to come off stage and during like before their encore shoot another 10 minutes.
Oh,
Cool.
It happened. It was great.
That's
but
awesome.
It was probably the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever done.
That's wild. Hey man.
yeah, that makes me anxious thinking about that.
Yeah.
I'm anxious for you.
I have a question from Jeremy Saffer, and he worded it as, for those who have been in the industry for 10, 15, 20 years, how do you feel shoots have changed, the industry has changed for better or worse? And I just want to say that even if you haven't been in the industry that long, maybe you can still chime into how it's changed since you have and just talk to that. But I don't know who wants to kick that off, but that's a pretty loaded one.
I mean, everybody
You
wants
cut out
everything right
there,
away.
Adam.
What's up?
You cut out there, Adam, so I didn't hear that full question.
The question was, for those who have been in the industry for 10, 15, 20 years, basically how has it changed for better or worse? Basically, how's the music industry changed in regards to photo shoots over the past 20 years or so?
I mean, I would say the timelines are pretty insane now. Like people want to see photos the same day and have something to put out for a press release the next day sometimes.
What was it like
And then-
before?
I mean, you had to process things, so you couldn't possibly do that fast. Yeah. And like they want to see every option possible. Like, oh, can we see that in color? Can we see that in black and white? Do you have a different angle? All these things where when you're shooting on film, you shoot color, you shoot black and white, you shoot 36 frames, whatever, and like that's all you have.
Mm.
Yeah, that's fair.
I feel like I work, 3 times harder to make less than I did when I started.
Are you
Yeah.
talking less money or less photos?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You work twice as hard, make the same or less, than what we did.
You deliver 3 times more, you take in 3 times less.
Mm.
25 years.
Yeah. Also, my free time just goes because you've spent so much time in front of the computer now.
And retouching. We didn't retouch back then,
No.
We started, I started in the mid 90s, like, what the fuck is retouching? We worked less, and it was a
Yeah.
pleasure, and they actually paid you for your time, and they, paid everybody else well, and now it's just like you do everything.
Because back then you'd shoot something,
Mm-hmm.
get contact sheets, process it out, send it off, and then you're done with it. You'll never see it again.
I do miss the dark room though. That was so nice.
Yeah.
It was so nice. It seems like a lot more work, but it's actually 1,000 times less,
Yeah.
You just get lost in it.
That's where the magic comes.
Well, then, I think that it's safe to, I don't know, I'm going to assume that Bree and Phoebe and I didn't start with film because it was the only thing around. We might have done film because it was a thing. But what about you guys? Like, has it changed maybe, like, I'll say that these guys have probably been in the industry much longer than us. Has it changed for you guys over the time you've been in it? Or is there anything that you've noticed, even though it's a shorter period of time?
The only thing that I've noticed is that there's more focus on social media following and building a presence online. Like,
Mm.
even when I first started, I was still in school and I didn't really post much of what I did on Instagram. And the longer that I've shot for, the more I've done that. And the more that's helped me get more work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, socials is like you've almost. I wouldn't have any work if I didn't have an Instagram.
Yeah,
which
true.
is crazy. But yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, I would say I haven't obviously been around long enough to notice any of those changes, but I do know what they're all talking about when there's like so much less emphasis on quality. There's like they want a lot, they want to see it straight away. At shoots they want to look in camera and see everything you've done, which makes me want to crawl into a hole. And yeah, there's less appreciation, I think, for the art and more just like how much can we get out, how quickly.
Especially because there's so much more of a demand for like constant content, whereas I feel like before people would have been really happy and really thankful to have a series of images that they felt reflected them. And I think that that's what so many photographers like 10, 20 years ago were nailing. And now it's so much more like, okay, cool, you got one that really nails us, sick, that will last us 3 weeks. Like, and then we need
Yeah. Yeah.
And they used
I
to
mean,
stand for images, you know. Now it's like, "Bleh," you know.
Well, photos didn't used to be referred to as content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's all content.
Do you guys?
When-
No, go. My bad.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, working for Lewis was an interesting one because his core focus at the beginning was building a following on his Instagram, but it wasn't through handsome pictures of him or anything. It was like, how ridiculous can we get? How much can we, like, every single day, and just getting more and more stupid, more and more ugly, and see how it works. And it shouldn't work, but it did. So there's no kind of rules anymore, and I don't know whether that makes it better or worse. But yeah, there was.
I really like. I look back at photos that were taken, like you see them obviously like when you're looking through websites for inspiration or whatever, and I'm like, there's just so much more attention paid, like, and the general, like, the quality is better of the shorter amount of work that you do than you do now, because I guess you could just pour a lot into that one shoot and know that that was your shoot with that person, or like it was better to prove yourself so that you could then be hired again in order to like get something out of it, or to get a shot that you like, or to make it a good relationship with the artist. It was purely about getting an image that you liked for this reason.
Yeah.
Bree and Phoebe, do you guys feel like you get taken advantage of? I'm just curious. Like, how do you feel? Because, you know, we've seen the industry shift, you know, but how do you feel about, you know, what you make versus the time you put into your work? Like, do you ever think about that?
Yeah, it's more so like when people are pushing you to deliver things quick, and you kind of feel like saying, do you not realize that the longer I take with these, the better the images are going to come out? You want them within an hour, like they're not going to look as good as they're going to look if you give me a day like mastering the edit.
Yeah, totally. And it's very hard to get particularly like long-term touring jobs now if you're not really proficient in video and photo, and they want both for the entire tour. And I feel like if you're going to be doing both at the same time for one artist on one tour, one or both of them is going to suffer. But there's not a lot of understanding of that, it seems.
You can do a lot of things good. You can't do a lot of things great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I do feel like I do think that photographers are potentially more important than ever and more undervalued than ever right now.
It's like a constant battle in your head, because you're like, you want to make the best work that you can do, but at the same time you're like, well, if I don't balance this with doing a bunch of video stuff and staying up all night to get that in the next day, then they're not going to hire me for the next tour, and then I'm not going to have work in anyway. So it's like, what do you sacrifice, and how do you sacrifice your own work in order to progress in your career?
Well, there's also something to be said about, like, if you're on a 24/7 notice of just like at 11 p.m. they want you to send them something, and all you're doing all the time is that. When it actually comes to your shooting job, your mind is so distracted by being tired or being worn out or being taken advantage of that, like, you can't do your job well. Like, there needs to be a balance to respect what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, totally. Definitely.
I was gonna say, it sounds like me like we're kind of finding the line between, are you a content creator, are you an artist, and how does the client view you? Are they working with you, or is what you're doing merely transactional, or you're providing a service? And I guess then the struggle becomes, you know, I think maybe nowadays it's like, I'm a photographer, but what type am I, or what, you know, purpose do I serve? And how do you guys market yourselves, or how do you communicate what you want to do to your clients when maybe the clients see a portfolio and they can't tell a difference between, you know, somebody like Paul, who might shoot mostly portraits and do photo shoots, and somebody else who does photo and video on tour? Like, what do you guys do to kind of get the jobs you want?
I think it's just like that itself is a constant battle, because you're like, especially if you don't really know which one you fit into, and then you're like, which one do I want to fit into? And then you're like, well, which one am I getting more work through? and it like is always for me blurred in that area.
I feel very fortunate. Like I don't promote that much. I have my clients, they've been with me, and I don't know what's going to happen when they're all moving on, because everyone is, but I don't know. I feel like, at least with most of the people I work with, there's an understanding on that process.
Yeah. I try not to work with people that I don't like. Like there's a bunch of magazines and a bunch of creatives that I've worked with my entire career, and like there's a lot of loyalty, I think, in our world. And so it's like once somebody trusts you and it's like you do a good job and you get along, then they send you on to somebody else and it kind of trickles down. Like I feel like anytime I've actively searched for work, I end up just regretting it. Whereas when like Norman Wonderly from Warner sends me a job, it's like he literally gave me my first job that I ever had, and he's still hiring me for things.
Because he was, where was he? Alt Press originally, or was he something before that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like I think he gave me a job 20 years ago, and when he moved on to Warner, kept hiring me there, and
Wicked.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's true. And then you meet new people with all those new ventures, because magazine editors, they bounce around,
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice when it feels kind of organic rather than forced. I have felt like every job that I have gotten, even the more significant ones, kind of, I wasn't looking for them at the time. It does, saying they fell into your lap is doing yourself a disservice, but it's nice when it feels like that, because you're building relationships and you're being hired for who you are as well as what you do. And that's, I think, for me, particularly with touring, I like to be able to be hired for who I am, and that they like to have me around, as well as, maybe they like my work is like a bonus. So
Totally agree with that. You're like trying to, I don't know, prove that you are a nice person to have around, or like that you'd be a good personality fit with whoever you're working with, and that's a huge side of it.
Yeah, it's very important if you're going to be basically living with these people on top of them in bunks in a bus for 6 weeks.
That's another thing that's changed though, is that like you kind of have to post, like, I don't know if you guys feel the same thing, but it feels weird when you have to post some stuff of yourself online in order for people to know like what you're like, if they want to hire you.
I've never once posted a single thing about myself ever.
I think it just depends when you started, and there's obviously a lot of factors.
This is probably like the most face forward thing I've ever done.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm similar to Phoebe, where I feel like it's been important for me to have there's a little bit of me, even if I don't particularly like that about it, but a little bit of me in my socials. And it's like, for instance, when you're touring with an artist who has such a loyal fan base, them being able to connect with you and know who you are, you're kind of building relationships and kind of sort of developing relationships with your own fans and people that will interact with your work and buy your prints and support you throughout your career, rather than just depending on what artist you're working with. So I have found it important to put myself out on my Instagram, and that's helped me massively.
I just want to say before we move forward that Josiah Van Dien is here, and Yasi, other photographers, and just I appreciate other photographers coming and supporting, and I think that's a really cool thing that people are here and doing that from afar. So thank you guys for coming, and thank you guys for sharing, and thank you, Jonathan, for doing this, and Travis, I recognize it's outside your comfort zone or outside the way you kind of operate, and it sounds like, well, listening to Phoebe and Bree, it might be more, people who have had clients for a long time. It's a little different than maybe people who are still trying to find new long-term relationships, and there's different ways to do that. So it's kind of
I just started scanning the thing on the messages or whatever this is.
The chat.
Yeah.
I didn't even figure that out.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to tell you, Jonathan.
I don't know how to do that stuff.
Like, I would be petrified if I had to start over right now. Like, if I was coming up, I don't know how to do it. Like, I get asked all the time, and the way I did it is way different, than I used to doing it. You guys, like world.
We kind of just carved our own paths.
Yeah, and made a lot of fucking cold calls, and literally, like, I'd be in New York on another job, and like I would just be like, I'm downstairs.
Yeah, I would do the same thing.
There's my damn book that weighs 80 pounds, like hiking around, New York City and shit. But I don't know. I suck with this social media thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess.
It
Yeah,
makes zero sense to me. I would love to take a class from you guys.
Yeah.
We can trade. You can teach us like studio setups, and we'll teach you social media.
Yes, please.
great.
Why does one thing that you're so proud of get like 50 likes?
Or how to look cool and how to look.
I
You don't even know, and you're like, what the fuck is that for?
I'll have things that are like doing well, and then the one photo that I'm like genuinely stoked on,
Yeah.
nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
That'll teach
Yeah,
you.
that's so disappointing when that happens.
Don't
But
love
what I
you
really
do.
want to know, and I feel like I'm old here, but like, why do I only see the same 20 people?
Well, what's? Oh, yeah. No. Wait, was that a legit question, or were you referring to something?
No,
else?
I'm actually seriously want to know the
Oh,
answer.
it's like to do with
Oh,
your
on socials.
who you're most interacting with, and then if that
Oh,
changes,
the
policy,
algorithm.
it will come up.
But I don't interact with anybody. Is that the problem?
I don't know, man.
The algorithm
They're reading your brain.
is one of the greatest mysteries of
No
this
idea.
century. Yeah, no idea. But I guess it is kind of cool now with socials and with building an online following. Like you can be a little bit more passive with it, or a little bit more introverted. You don't have to throw yourself out there physically as much. So you can it's just a different way of doing it. You do still have to, throw yourself out there in a sense. But I can't imagine what it would have been like having to cold call and turn up to places and really hustle in that way. It's a completely different scenario now.
I mean,
It's really
I will
interesting
say-
that you even did that. Like, I have no idea how. Like, I wouldn't even be able to guess what you guys did.
Well,
yeah.
Phoebe,
Average careers, like, I know like all of your work, and it's like I don't know how each one of you started.
But Phoebe, I feel like you're kind of doing it well without knowing, just in the sense of like, I know who you are because Ruff told me about you when I was working on a job with him. And so it's like by creating good relationships with people and they like you and they hire you for things, then they talk about you.
Yeah.
And that's how it all works.
And I think I don't remember who suggested you, Phoebe, but I found your work through somebody asking somebody for this, and they suggested you. I don't remember if it was Jonathan or who.
Yeah, it was me.
Yeah, it was Jonathan. Yeah, so like that is kind of how it works in the back end, if that makes sense.
Mm.
Yeah, treat people
Phoebe,
well
you-
and be somebody
you
that people
put
want
me
to
in
work
touch
with.
Adam for this as well. So
It's weird though. It's just different way, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a
Mhm.
different it's a different way of doing it, but it's still kind of the same as what we did, just using technology.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
I saw people asking in the chat, how do they get started and stuff, and I guess what I would say is the techniques people are talking about, even though they're using them later into their career, and you guys can correct me if I'm misunderstanding, but I would like to say those things are just the same techniques you started with, they're just evolving, and that can be seen, whether it be the digital age and the portfolio to the age, but it's the the underlying theme seems to be, be a good person, work with people that you like and enjoy, and then work with their friends and the people they introduce you to, and that's kind of how.
Yeah.
And always shoot for the stars. Like, you're only as good as the last few, and make it enjoyable. The only reason I feel like I work goes back into the fast shooting thing is, I tried my motto on set is to be done before the person you're shooting is even thinking about it.
Yeah, you
Mm.
want people to walk away feeling good.
Every fucking time,
Mhm.
And sometimes I wish I had more, but I got exactly what I needed for what we're there for, and I'll get more again next time. That's my advice for
Travis,
I mean,
I just
it's
want to
kinda-
sit down and listen to you talk for like an hour, just fully go, and like you're so passionate. I like it. Like everybody is, but like you just really get to the core fast. Like, damn, it's a good question.
Mm.
I think
Motivational podcast is needed.
Yeah, let's go, Travis. What were you gonna say, Jonathan? Sorry, I got
I was
excited
just
there.
it's kind of like the same as playing a show where you want to leave with people wanting more. Like if you play 4 encores and everybody's just walking out the door, then nobody
Yeah.
wants to come back and see you. In the same way, it's like
Yeah.
you do a nice fast shoot where at the end of it, people are like, "Wait, that's it? We're done?" And then they have
Yeah.
a great image. they're stoked and they're probably going to want to do it again.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I'm not bummed that I just wasted my time for like 4 hours doing nothing.
Right.
Travis, everybody in chat says you need your own podcast.
I do.
Found your calling.
Yeah, I do. I didn't even know it.
I always get in trouble because I just speak in statements. I don't really get involved.
I already told you what you need to know. Why do you want to know more? No, that's fair. Well, I guess we got about 4 minutes left here. I don't know if you guys want to end it off. We can kind of do the rounds, but we can talk about. I wanted to know, like, we kind of talked about it a little bit, but what? Actually, maybe we already did cover it intentionally. I was going to say what makes a successful shoot for you guys, and it can be different for each person. I know we talked about how we want to leave our client feeling, but for you, when you leave a shoot, how do you know you did a good job? Like, what do you base that off of? And what do you mean? What's successful to you?
For me, it's the experience for me and them. You know, like there's just, I don't know. You know when you got it. I don't know.
You feel it?
I feel like anytime I end a shoot and somebody tells me it's the best shoot they've been on, or that I feel like I made something unique, then it's like I don't have to look at it again. I already know exactly what we have.
Anybody else? Paul?
Yeah, I would say similar to what Phoebe said before. It's like leaving feeling like you have a good connection with that artist now, and not just like a work connection, and yeah, feeling like none of them left feeling like it was really tedious, feeling like they would want to work with you again, essentially. But
I think when you if you get a bit of chemistry with going with somebody and you end up with a shot that you weren't necessarily expecting, and you've created a bit of magic, and it was just the two of you have done that in a shoot, that's really special.
I feel like mine's getting an image that I feel like represents the artist and what they want to look like, but also who they are, and then it also ties in with the photography style that I want to promote.
Mm-hmm.
And walking away with that is like, sick, I killed 2 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah, that's very true.
Moving forward. Yeah, no, that's great. Well, thank you guys for being here. I'm going to turn off everybody in stream. Make sure you guys say thank you for everybody's time. I appreciate you guys. I know it's a little different than usual. We all have arguably more free time than before, given the circumstances. But we still appreciate you guys being here for an hour in your day or your night. More than half the people here are in the UK, which usually isn't how it works, which is awesome. But I'm going to turn off the stream, so thank you guys for coming here so much. I'm not going to rate anybody, but I will talk to everybody later. Peace.